some people on what they wanted to speak about. I kind of put everybody's. I didn't do. I kind of put one from one person, one from somebody else, one from somebody else, and we'll go through this list, I guess. I think we're planning on an hour today. If you want to go longer, we can. But I think an hour is a good amount of time to still get some things done around the office. So the first thing we have to talk about, Jeff Sweet, I think this came from you, the use of colorants on greens, tees, and fairways to increase surface temperature and aid in speeding up spring growth. It says you have not done this, but it seems like it might be a good idea. Do you want to expound upon that a little bit, Jeff?
Yeah, I just wondered if it would affect the soil temperatures at all to make the darker grass, make it darker, I guess. We have Providence greens, so they green up about July 1st. So if we colored them, wonder if that would speed up the heating process of the soil.
Has anybody else done that?
I haven't done it, but I think a lot of the topics that Jeff and I are going to have are going to be similar because I think we visit a lot of the same websites, i.e. TurfNet and so forth. Jeff, I don't remember if it was TurfNet or at the MTF conference that I heard speckling of that conversation and that experimentation, and they actually did find that it did raise soil temperatures.
And then I guess that goes with my questions of, if it works in the spring to raise soil temperatures, how is it lowering them in the summer? You know, some of the claims from the different pigment manufacturers, it may be lowering canopy temperature a little bit, but are we heating up that soil more than we need to when it gets in the dog days of summer? But I think it could be something useful for early spring. I'm on the fence on pigments right now, I guess.
I don't think you're going to cause any damage with them. Whether they do what they're supposed to or not, I really think they'll hurt you by it.
First day, Jeff.
Yeah, Lucas, what was that? I don't think I couldn't hear you very well. You said you didn't think you'd cause any damage by using colorants?
Right. I don't think they're going to do any damage. Whether they're worth it or not, only testing will tell. Go out and spray half a grain and try it that way. But I think it'll be. I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, it seems like it would make sense that some green colorant would certainly help things come out of dormancy maybe a little bit faster. I don't know if it makes sense scientifically, but to me it kind of makes sense just as something worth trying. But nobody in here has tried that yet, or do you know of anybody that's tried it? No?
No.
Great. Well, Jeff, you can go try it out and report back. If it kills everything, then hopefully nobody else will do it. Great. Do you have any other questions on that, Jeff? No? All right. Let's go to our second topic. Is this from you, Jim Bluck? The philosophies of post top dressing mowing schedules?
Yeah, it is. The reason I asked that question is something is going on with my greens that I think the only variable I think I've changed in the last 4 or 5 years is mowing immediately after top dressing. My top dressing program includes spiking, followed by pretty aggressive verticutting, sanding, dragging, mowing, and then rolling in order to have the greens at least aesthetically pleasing. And I'm just in fear of picking up all the large sand particles, the coarse sand, and leaving the fine sands and kind of creating a perched water table, which from research I've done lately is quite possible, especially like the guys that are going out with a fine sand all season and then a coarse sand during irrigation. I'm just afraid I might be possibly doing that by mowing directly after dragging. Just to know what everybody else's thoughts were.
Hey Jim, it's Steve. The mowing idea, I don't mow after I top dress. I water them and double roll them, and I even only roll the next day so I don't pick up any sand. I know I'm not doing it. Members probably don't see that I'm not specifically mowing right after I top dress. So if you can avoid that, in your own world, I just mow before, roll after, roll, water, roll the next day, and just avoid picking it up.
Yeah, it was kind of a double-fold reason why I did it. Was obviously one to get things cleaned up, but the other thing is I don't have groomers on any of my equipment, and to mow right after dragging is pretty nice. As far as it's a cheap man's way of verticutting or grooming at least, and so that's kind of why I did it. But I'm wholeheartedly set on not doing it anymore. I just don't know how long or if what I've done over the last 4 years is irreversible. But yeah, I know Scott Pulaski had sent me a report or an experiment that Brian Mavis had done with sand pickup and whatnot. But in his study, he indicated that he didn't see any differences in the particle sizing after mowing, but I think they were mowing the next day and the next day after, not directly after the same day. So yeah, I think I'm going that way, Steve. I've got no other choice at this point.
I'm totally taking your cheap version of brushing before we top dress and we mow. And it's such a great cut, and we'll come back and brush the sand again. But they'll get brushed twice, or actually probably 6 times by the time you brush it off. But we always brush it first, mow it, and then top dress and come back and brush. Because I don't have groomers on my equipment.
Gotcha.
I'm a little bit in the same boat there too. We'll brush out in front of the walk mowers, top dress, spin some water, and then we're probably rolling the next day more times than not on a kind of a medium light top.
Thanks, Dan. I realized we got started right into this without doing introductions. I know a lot of you guys know each other, but you might not. I think I know everybody, but if you can maybe just go right across real quick. We'll get back to this philosophy of top dressing, but I want to make sure everybody knows everybody else. So, Dan, Lucas, do you want to start with the introductions?
Hi, I'm Dan Lucas. I'm at the Kingsley Club just south of Traverse City.
Dan Mazoff, Radford Farms in Ann Arbor.
Frank, Chicken Beach Club, Michigan.
Jeff Sweet, Bucks Run, and Mount Pleasant.
Jim Bluck, Forest Dunes, and Roscommon.
Steve, Hammond, Traverse City.
Steve, I'm taking it. You get a lot of feedback on your end.
I didn't hear what you said, Adam.
I'm taking it you're getting a lot of feedback.
No, not anymore. Now that we got my Southern course superintendent all set. Good job, Dan.
Thanks.
Okay. Does anybody else? Dan Lucas, you do a lot of top dressing over there, don't you? Do you have any? How do you guys top dress at Kingsley Club?
We top dress and roll, and then just roll generally the next day. The earliest we'll mow is the afternoon of the day after, when things are good and dried out.
Jeff Sweet, Eric Rank, do you guys have anything to add on top dressing? And
We do something similar to Jim. We spike, top dress. We didn't verticut last year, but usually we'd verticut in the top dressing, then broom them, and then mow, and then roll right after. I haven't seen any issues of picking up the big stuff, but last year we didn't mow right after, and we lost a lot of green speed the day of and the day after. So I'm thinking we're probably going to go back. We actually did go back to mowing right after in the fall. Just the simple fact that the public golf course, they're all paying the same fee, whatever day it is, and they expect the same conditions. So we struggle with that a little bit, but I don't know. It works for us, I guess. And if you verticut after, which I'll probably institute again this year, you're getting a lot of that stuff into the canopy, and we didn't pick up a whole lot of sand. One thing I'd like to investigate maybe is just doing it weekly and mowing in the afternoon if you're going lighter rates, but that just becomes a labor and manpower issue also.
How many of you guys are using the powered heavy dragon brooms? I know you are. The rest of you guys using those? Are you using the cocoa mats, or how are you dragging in your sand?
We use a greens groomer.
Okay, is that the name of the? You guys got to remember, I'm just a paper pusher now. Is that the name of the heavy-duty brooms? The power that has the power lifting lower?
Yeah, yeah. It's not a power broom. It's just stationary brooms, but it's got a little electric lift cylinder on it.
Yeah, that's what we used at Crystal Mountain, and boy, I found that worked. That changed my whole top dressing world the last 2 years when we had one of those versus using a cocoa mat. Before that, we were top dressing with some heavier particle stuff, and Jim, actually, we would go out and lay it down. So it was so heavy when I got there, I didn't want to change to something smaller. We would go out and top dress and wouldn't even drag it in. We just water it, let golfers play on it, kind of walk it in, water it again that evening, and then go out and mow, because dragging with a cocoa mat, all that did was bring the heavy stuff up to the top. It wasn't very good. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you have a lot of large particle size in your top dressing sand, like I did, that seemed to work the best for us until I got that greens brush. Then it wasn't an issue anymore, and I changed to a smaller particle size.
I have the same greens groomer, but in the summer I take off half the brushes. And then in the spring and fall, I put them all back on for the heavy sanding.
I've heard good things about the power brushes too. I don't know the name brands, but I think Seafeld at Travis Point bought one, and he's had good luck, and he just goes over it once. I'm afraid if I buy another cultivation equipment for the greens, my owners will hang me up by a tree. So probably not in the market.
I heard it's tough to get anything bought over there. Bucks on that. You can feel tough on his guy.
General manager's a tough one.
Great. Anything else? Any other questions on top dressing? Okay, we'll move on to the next subject here. Steve Hammond, I know this one's from you. Ice coverage on your greens. Depth, kind of ice. What have you done to remove it? How long has it been under ice? Steve, you want to expand upon that a little bit about what you have at Traverse City right now?
Sure. January 17th, we had 0.8 of an inch of rain. Like a lot of northern Michigan, it's been frozen for 65 days now. Mostly annual bluegrass, and the research I've seen has been 60 days or less. It'll survive. I've got a 1/2 inch to an inch of ice out there. We've tried to snow blow the greens, but the snow on the greens is so broken and solid, and the rain and the mix and the warming and the cooling has just made it like concrete, so we can't snow blow it. And my real question is the color of the ice. Have you guys heard any research or seen anything? If you have that ice skating ice solid, then the gases don't come out. But if you have kind of the gray frozen slurpy ice, maybe the gases will come out after time. I don't know. I'm just guessing here.
Steve, I went to Kevin Frank's ice seminar down at Detroit Golf Club a few years ago. Maybe you were with me. I don't know. But I remember them talking about Steve Cook talking about punky ice, where it has like we were talking about with the holes in it, and that's a lot less likely to damage than the ice skating ice that you talked about. And ice skating ice, as far as I used to maintain the ice rink at Crystal Mountain. If we had a good winter, I'd want ice skating ice all winter. And that turf always survived. That was a longer Kentucky grass stand with some polo in it. I don't know if height of cut maybe made a difference in that.
Yeah, I concur with Adam. I've heard the same thing. But the drawback this year, Steve, as you well know, being this far north, is we had a lot of snow, and then it got soft and warm and graded pan layers and hard layers, crusty layers versus melting all the way, like courses farther south. So it'd be interesting to see how courses farther north, especially in the snow belt, how they come out. Because you're right, you can't break through it. You can't break through the snow before you even get to the ice.
Yeah, the areas that we had the snow blower on, we went about 20 feet. It took forever. And the rain that we had just a few days ago, that melted the ice in those rectangles. And now those rectangles are just solid tan. And there isn't even much green down below. I've got a plug in the window and the plug looks fine, but where I've exposed the plants to, 18-degree mornings and clear nights, I think that's where my damage is going to be, which I hope it is. That I've gone out, I tried it, we did some snow blowing, and look, we made it worse. So, it does look worse.
I've dealt with ice here and there, and I don't know. I've come to the conclusion to just leave it alone and let Mother Nature do its thing. We had a flood in of January. So I had 7 inches of ice, solid ice down to the surface on my 12th fairway, and that came out fine. I've done more damage on my greens removing ice than I ever lost ice. I think this time of year is when you'll lose them if they're coming out of that winter hardiness, and then we get a 60-degree day followed by rain and 20-degree night or something like that. That's where I've lost the grass in the late winter, early spring.
I'd agree with Jeff. The popcorn, slurpy kind of ice for us, I usually don't get too concerned about because it's trying to melt off. In 08, we lost some grass that had your solid ice skating rink ice on it. We ended up chipping that off and trying to get water to move and do more damage, trying to chip it than anything else. I can tell you, since my brothers at Oakland Hills, they're moving snow all the time. South, of course, a lot more than the north, but they had quite a bit of snowblower damage late January, I think. So like Jeff said, is it worth removing all that? For me, I'm in the same boat. It's just not worth it.
It seems like that's the general consensus from people I've talked to about ice is most people can't afford to do what Oakland Hills does, so they don't. That there's quite a bit of cost involved with getting out there and removing snow as it comes down like they do. If Traverse City wants to pay to have that done, Steve, I'm sure that they'd let you do it, depending on how it comes out.
I think Dan Lucas, he actually goes and makes ice on his greens, don't you, Dan?
Yeah, polo control.
24/7, 365, pole control, Kingsley Club.
That's why I can't
We
get
keep
Lucas
the
up here
mixers
to
running
play
all
golf.
winter.
What's that, Steve?
I was saying that's why I can't get Lucas up here to play golf because there's too much polo. He doesn't like it.
What even let his golf shoes touch it? Great.
Polo is a great putting grass. It's just not a great putting grass.
Yeah. Any other ice comments or questions? Okay. Dan Massoff, I think you asked this question. How much pressure do you get to open? Dan, do you want to expand upon that a little bit?
Sure. It's just, I think, a general question for everybody. Being in Ann Arbor with Barton Hill, Travis Point, Oakland's pretty close. And our other golf course at the university, everybody kind of wants to know, well, Travis is open or Barton's open. When are you going to open, or why not? And just curious if other guys get a lot of comparisons that way, or not too bad.
Jeff Sweet, would you be the first one to answer that? Since, Dan, Eric, and Steve are all at private clubs, and I'm assuming you guys all have somewhat solid opening dates.
I guess I put more pressure on myself, but now looking at all the numbers, if you, I mean, last year we made good money in March when we had hit the 80 degrees, but we had a terrible April when it got in the 50s. You can start bleeding a lot of money if you open up too soon and you don't get that consistent weather, because now you've got a bag staff, or you've got people working weekends that you didn't have before. You've got we open up the grill. You can start bleeding a lot of money through labor. So we're probably going to open next week sometime. We're usually a week behind the southern courses, but we could probably open this Friday, but it's in the 40s, so we'll just be sitting here twiddling our thumbs, and we still got some ice to melt too.
Jeff, is part of it a rate issue as well? I know in talking with Jay Appleton at the Emerald last year about the early opening, that people didn't want to they wanted to pay the spring rate, even though the golf course had been open for a month, and with the amount of labor needed just to keep it going, that to charge spring rates at the traditional spring rate time of year wasn't covering the labor to keep the golf course operating. I think your microphone's still muted, Jeff.
We actually increased our spring rates for this year because last year we did get beat up. And then, you've switched to your summer rates the second week of May, and you're not giving that great of conditions to people. And the lower spring rate is bringing out some of the worst clientele. So, but, in our March, we made good money in March, but a good weekend in June will make double that. So that's, kind of how the money flows. It's nice to have money flowing and getting people to work, but on the other hand, you're not making a profit by any means. You're just getting some cash flow going. So if you manage right, you should have cash in the bank.
Yeah, Dan, I don't really have much to offer either for two reasons. Number one, where I'm located, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And then secondly is our membership is not our largest golfer population on our course. It's more public play, and all of our public play comes from downstate, out of state, and whatnot. So not having any local play, there really is no pressure to open where I'm at. So I can't help you there.
As far as Kingsley, because Traverse City in town comes clean of snow a solid week quicker than we come out here. Our members are calling out looking to play. But I just set a general rule. We open as soon as we can every year, but it's after the greens firm up and the frost comes out. So generally the frost comes out, the water drains, and we roll them a few times, get them mowed. It's a week or so after the frost comes out, of 4 or 5 days to a week, and we're open up.
Okay, so Dan, you're basically, it was a little echoey, but basically when the frost comes out of the greens, it's a general rule as far as when you open, not necessarily a date on the calendar.
Correct.
Steve Hammond, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, most of the competition, with Dan's Club, Grand Traverse Resort, Leland, Lock and Heath, there really isn't a push in this area who can do it first. I'll open up 9 holes. We've got a dry 9, a mix of a few on the front and a few on the back, that I'll get people, that satisfaction. Spring's here. When is the course going to open? I'll announce it at least a week out when I think we're going to open 9 holes in the range. I've really found that as long as they have information of when and why and how and what dates and what time, then they're all satisfied for a week. And everyone's calming back down. They send out emails. They talk to their friends. They're going to play golf. They know that date's coming. And a lot of times I'll open up a day or two before then. That's helped. But, I'm not like anyone in downstate. We're all snow dependent. We're usually around April 5th. But there's pressure here from members because they've been paying dues all winter. But it's really just the communication to give them an answer.
we open April 1st, then it's 80 degrees or like yesterday, 84 degrees. So, I don't know if we're unique or not, but that's what we do.
Eric, I think we're having a tough time with your connection. It seems like it's kind of choppy. I didn't get a whole lot of that, I'm afraid.
One of the things that I've noticed with everyone's voice on my end, when it's a strong voice and you're close to your microphone, I don't think you get the echo as much. But when you back up and you're talking further away, I think you get the echo. I get that from you, Adam, the most. If you're close to your microphone or your screen, I don't get your echo. But when you lean back, then I get the echo from people.
So there's less echo if I'm do it.
Well, no, now that time it was bad.
The main thing the echo comes from is, you know, like if I'm talking right now, it's playing through Jan's computer and through your speakers, and your microphone's picking it up, and that's why if everybody has a microphone on, it can just echo where we can understand anybody. It's really not the best as far as video chat goes, but there's really nothing else quite like this that's free out there. I mean, the best way to do it is the way Jeff Sweet has it with the earbuds and the microphone, because then it's only coming into his ears and it's not playing out loud to everybody else. You know, so there's no way for his computer to pick up that feedback and cycle it back through everybody else's computer. Okay, Dan, did that cover your question on getting open? It sounds like they just want you to open Radrick as soon as possible. Is that right?
I don't know that I say as soon as possible. It's usually dependent on, like Dan said, frost coming out, how dry we are, you know, the normal agronomic stuff, but comparisons with, you know, 50 other golf courses in Washtenaw County. But yeah, that answered it pretty good.
Great. The next one I know is from Jeff Sweet on the use of manganese sulfate in the spring to help prevent take-all patch. Jeff, you said you do this and it seems to work. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, we put down manganese sulfate. It's research out of Rutgers a few years back, but we use a product called Techman GAM. We go 13 3/4 pounds per acre. That's basically one bag for 4 acres of turf. And we used to battle take-all a lot on greens, so that's gone away. And then when I do apply it on tees, and sometimes I just miss it, it's a lot less severe. There's probably 3 or 4 tees that we still battle take-all patch. So this has helped. And then I know Sean O'Connor at Forest Acres has done it also. And for his POA, he's seeing a lot less patch diseases like summer patch in the summer with early season manganese application. I think he's actually doing it through the season also. But the research out of Rutgers was just a one-time app in the spring and to load up the soil, and it does help with patch diseases.
Is anybody else doing something similar in the group?
Well, I used to fertilize with a sulfur coat that had high manganese in it and had break control, but knock on wood, hopefully I'm past those stages.
You're talking about for take-all patch, Jim?
Yeah.
Jeff, you're still seeing, you're still getting take-all patch at Bucks Run?
Mainly just on a few tees, but greens, it pops up every once in a while. Fairways, it pops up every once in a while. It could probably have a lot to do with fertility. We run it on the lean side. We'll have it pop up on a few fairways here and there. I haven't applied the manganese to the fairways, but usually on fairways I can bump it out of it with just a little quick apple urea.
Steve Hammond, I know you had summer patch issues in the past, and I think you told me you found some a program that works pretty well, at least for you.
Yeah, I have. You know, the yellowing I was getting is iron chlorosis. and it would get worse and worse and worse. Send a sample down to Michigan State. Yep, Steve, you've got summer patch. 6 ounces dialphenate methyl. Blame all the chemical vendors. Blame my timing, too early, too late, not enough water, too much water, wrong nozzles, all that stuff. But it was really iron chlorosis. So $800 in iron, one app at 6 to 8 ounces on my fairways around July 4th, and no more problems. So it was summer patch after the iron chlorosis got so bad.
Anybody else have any preseason or early season patch disease control strategies that work for them?
Steve, are you using iron sulfate, just a soluble, or are you using a liquid?
Liquid.
Okay, we'll go on to the next topic. Solid or wheelie rollers for encouraging a desired turf species, fact or fiction? Jim Bluck, I think that's from you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I've been looking heavily or watching heavily a lot of the posting and the comments on the internet about the Greenway program or the modified Greenway program or quote-unquote iron sulfate program with the smooth rollers and then no disruption, all that kind of good stuff. For the life of me, I can't get my head around the fact that a Wiley roller would promote poannua versus a solid roller, unless it's just a matter of the leaf blade being kind of laid down if it's bent grass and covering the poannua. I just didn't know what the rest of the guys thought. That's just something I've always scratched my head about. I just didn't know what everybody else's thoughts were.
And Jim, just so I'm clear, since I'm kind of, like I said, just a paper pusher, you're talking about Wiley rollers, the grooved rollers versus the smooth?
Yeah.
I switched to smooth last year in a kind of a modified Greenway program with high rates iron sulfate, trim it, no verticutting, that type of thing. I think I did see better health with the solid rollers, and I didn't see a decline in putting quality. So I'm sticking with the solids for now and for year 2. But I didn't see any decrease in putting surface quality at all.
I think for me, it's been Wiley here since as long as I've been here, 99 at least. As far as controlling POA or eliminating, I don't think it has anything to do with the roller here for me anyway. I don't spray any PGRs. I do everything I can to try to let Mother Nature take away the POA. We'll let anthracnose do some brewing and take out some POA and encourage the bent. And I don't understand how a roller is going to help or hurt, a certain species, but that's just the young guy from Ann Arbor talking.
Yeah. I can understand the cleanup passes and whatnot, but what I'm dealing with is a really, really, if you have 100% poannua green, you get a dense putting surface, but with A4, you have a dense putting surface as well. And I've had even the solid rollers on the back of our walking greens mowers after top dressing, constantly cleaning the scraper bar off because that solid roller picks up all of that sand. And I'm all for promoting bent grass, but I just have never clicked with me on possibly why the benefit of the solid roller to discourage POA or encourage bent grass. I was kind of curious about that. Trivial question, I guess.
The jury's still out for me. I'm going to try it for another year and see. We used to go solid in the spring and then switched. We used to go swedge rollers forever, and then we went Wiley in the last few years. So I've tried all rollers, and I get about the same amount of cut. I don't know about healthier grass, but the verdict's still out on that.
I think it's an old
Lucas,
wives'
do you have
tale,
anything
Jim.
to add? Oh, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think it's an old wives' tale. I love
Okay,
all
fair
POA.
enough.
Bring the POA.
Northern Michigan bent grass. Dan Lucas, what are your thoughts on this, being the bent grass guy that you are?
I've never used solid rollers for anything. We've used switched. I've used switch before in my career. Other than that, it's always been grooved rollers. We can't use the switch rollers at Kingsley because we have too many small elevation changes that where it'll scalp in the middle of the mower if you're not careful. So we went with grooved all the way around. Just makes sense that you're not rolling over all of the grass before you cut it. But I don't think it makes that big of a difference either.
You mentioned swedge. Is that where there's just the two balls on the end basically, and it's open in front of the reel? Okay. Great. Anybody else on the
Yes.
rollers? Okay. Steve Hammond, I think you asked about operating budgets for 2013. Increase, decrease, neutral. Maybe we're going to start with Dan Lucas and work our way over.
We're going to be about the same. We brought it up a little bit last year. Our budget really varies a lot based on how many projects the owner wants to do. And the last couple of years, he's got more projects going again. So ours has come up a little bit in the last couple of years, but basically the operationally we've stayed about the same.
Great. Dan Massoff?
Mine's unique. Being at the university, it's a fiscal budget, so it's kind of tough to figure out, season to season kind of things. But it went up a little bit, a couple grand, nothing more.
Eric Rank, do you want to try to chime in so we can hear you?
Hopefully you can. Yeah, my budget went up last year. I believe it was 6 or 7%.
Eric, we could hear you loud and clear that time. Did you shut your video off? It looks like your video is frozen, but we can hear you a lot better.
I plugged my speakers into my laptop.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, we don't have any more video, but that's fine because we can actually hear you now. Jeff Sweet, that GM give you any increase?
No, it's been staying the same, mainly where it's kind of increased, but that's healthcare increases and fuel. But as far as pesticide, fertilizer, labor, that's all stayed pretty much close to the same.
Jeff, when was the last time you guys increased your budget, or has it just been in the last 5 years, 10 years? Has it all been decreased?
No, it's never been decreased. I've always gotten the tools that I need, but now we try to make it so my budget's in line with the golf budget, so we're making a profit. But it's always been in that $400,000 range.
Great. Jim Butt?
The prior 4 years, my budget had decreased, but for 2013, it is increasing very slightly. We have an addition of the hotel on site, which will include some additional maintenance. But we also have homes on site that are selling, and we are now in charge of maintaining those. And it was kind of a sales pitch on my end to tell my owner, or asking the owner for a couple more people to really maintain the dunes areas out here. That kind of got neglected over those 4 years. The front entrance, the homes, and the clubhouse areas, which I think are pretty focal points of the property and unique to the golf course. So it went up just a slight bit for the first time in 4 years.
Thanks, Jim. Real quick before I ask you, Steve, how many of you budget based, like Jeff was talking about, on revenue, golf revenue, or just submit your budget and then the golf shop submits theirs and then you go from there? Or do you guys see the revenue side of things as well?
For me personally, I'm privy to all that information. I know where our revenue's at each and every year. kind of a unique situation is if we don't provide the product where we're at Adam, I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna just gonna turn off 75 to try to find us. So that's kind of been my fight or my mantra for the last 12 years that I've been here is we have to be different. We have to provide an experience that we can't get down the street. There's no reason to drive out in the middle of the National Huron Forest. That's pretty much been my selling point. But other than that, yeah, you do what you can, you know.
Damon, you want to chime in since this was your question?
Yeah, hold on. I guess in 07, 08, my budget went down $100,000 from 580 to 480. And we've crept up a few percent each year, but this is the first year I'm going to get 7%. I went to the Green Committee and started last year in the fall telling them, here are all the things that we haven't been doing. Here's what we've cut out. We need to start putting this back in and getting ahead of just, and I'm usually just given a number. And the second part to your question, we'll look at our current membership in the fall and we'll make projections of revenue like any business for the upcoming spring and summer. All the departments turn in their budgets and then we kind of divide it up and priorities, and if someone's focusing on different food items or more golf course operations, we'll split it up that way.
Great. Dan, Maslow, Lucas, or Frank, do you have anything how you budget? Those guys will start with Dan, but we can work our way over it. Do you use the revenue side much when you budget, or is it pretty much just what you need on the golf course side and let them worry about the revenue?
Was that for me? I'm sorry, my sound quality's gone down a little bit.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we pretty much just run our budget. I'm not, I hear numbers toward the end of the year to find out how we're doing for the year, but as far as that goes, our budget, my budget is pretty much driven by the project that the boss wants done. The only difference it makes is whether I have 12 people on staff or 16. And other than that, we just run it as cheap as we can.
Great. Dan Massot?
You know, we'll start with revenue. We're all season pass based. So clubhouse manager, our general manager, and I will sit down and we'll say, you know, here's our increases in membership. This is where we want to be on the bottom line, and then that's where the club and maintenance can make adjustments. I've never had an issue in the 3 years I've been superintendent, you know, getting a few more dollars here or there, because we start with that revenue side. So.
Thank you. Eric Rank?
I basically started building my budget from the previous year. Add on to it the raises, any other line items that I'd like to increase, and then I support that with justifications. You know, whether it be tree trimming budget or supplies budget or the FERT and Chem budget, and throw that at the my GM, and he's obviously the one that looks at all the numbers, and then we discuss, you know, if that's a realistic number that he can go to the board with, and that's kind of the starting point at least, and then the board takes a look at it and says yay or nay. Basically, it comes down to is whether or not they feel like going to the membership with a what size dues increase, and that's the ultimate deciding factor for us.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else have anything on operating budgets for 2013?
What are raises?
Well, we've been fortunate here, so.
You have to go down and visit Chickming to see him.
I whine a lot.
Good job, Eric.
Yes. Okay. Well, it looks like we have time for maybe one more topic. We want to keep this to an hour. The next thing we have on our list is from Dan Massoff. Dan asked how many hours of meeting you have per week. Dan, do you want to expand on that? I'm assuming you have many hours of meetings per week.
Sure. The background in July, both golf courses now report to the athletic department. And then this past January, our general manager moved up to director of golf courses. So we'll have a director, 2 general managers, clubhouse superintendent, clubhouse superintendent. So it's added probably 6 hours a week and hours for meetings to my normal about 8 hours a week right now. You know, I meet with a clubhouse manager once a week, general manager once a week, and then you know, I'll have a half hour with my full-time staff Friday afternoons. But just curious how many meetings guys get to go to a week.
I guess we'll just work from left to right here. Eric Rank, you want to chime in, and then we'll move on to Jeff, Jim, Steve, and Dan.
Yeah, Dan, you probably won't like to hear this, but last year, I think I probably had 6 hours total of meetings, besides my board meeting and my Greens Committee meetings. Years prior to that, my GM and I, which we get along really well, we'll take a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and meet for 15, 20 minutes, or at the most an hour, and half of that's kind of BS time for each of us. So that's kind of how we are here.
Jeff Sweet?
Before I took over general manager, I'd meet with the owner in the parking lot usually for 20 minutes once a year. And then just in passing, talking throughout the year. Now I do a staff meeting with the food and beverage manager, the pro, and myself, and my administrative assistant. 15 minutes every Thursday, or 10. I try not to go over 15. I think meetings are a complete waste of time. The Thursday afternoon meetings are just to get everybody up to speed, but I'm communicating with everybody daily, just to see how things are going and that type of thing, but I don't think you get much production done in meetings.
Thanks, Jeff. Jim Butt?
I appreciate the honesty, Jeff. Informal meetings, I have meetings with my staff every day for 15 minutes. I know it may sound trivial, but that's really an important time for me and my staff to kind of share ideas and whatnot. So at least the first 15 minutes of work is involved of everybody in the break room and getting together. But from a department head standpoint, we have a Thursday meeting once a week, which lasts for about an hour, hour and a half. And then obviously anytime the owner comes into town, which last year was like 6 times, and strictly informal, but excuse me, I got sidetracked. But yeah, that's about it. Once a week for an hour and 15 minutes, maybe.
I guess with my ground staff, we meet, every morning for 10 minutes before we go out to discuss the day's activities. So I guess you consider that a meeting, but as far as formal department head meetings, it's just that 15, 20 minutes on every Thursday.
Yeah, we do the same, 10 minutes every morning.
Thanks. Steve Hammond?
Well, I've got Green Committee for an hour once a month, Sports Committee with our golf pro for an hour once a month. Wednesdays, all 7 or 8 managers get together for an hour, hour and a half, talk about what happened in the last week, what's coming up for events in the next week. And I meet with my general manager on Thursdays for 15 to 30 minutes every week. So meetings are pretty limited around here. I couldn't handle 6 hours a week plus 2 more. That'd be tough.
Yes, it would. Dan Lucas?
Nothing formal set up around here. I check in with the GM a couple times a week and the golf pro just informally as I'm going by mowing or cutting cups or something. And then when the owner's around, things can turn into a meeting quickly, but generally there's nothing scheduled, and it's probably not more than 2 hours a month.
But Dan, you don't have any member committees at Kingsley, is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Well, it's 3 o'clock, so I think 1 hour is a good length of time. Everybody agree with that for this? Maybe we'll do this again rather than turn this into a 2-hour meeting. You know, Dan, I'm sure you have a meeting you got to get to, the way it sounds. So let's call this now at 3 o'clock. And if it looks like our next one, we'll start with how early is your first wedding agent application on greens, assuming everybody wants to do this again. I have to say it went much smoother than I was anticipating just because of all the technological hurdles that can be involved with something like this. So maybe we'll go right down the line and start with Dan Lucas. And do you want to participate in this again? Do you guys feel like this is worthwhile? Dan, do you want to start with that, and we'll call it after we finish this row?
Sure, I thought it was very good, and I think an hour is a perfect time. Unless my top technology gets upgraded considerably, this is about as long as I can sit still.
And actually, Dan, I know I was
Thanks,
talking about,
everybody.
I said I have a mic, but I actually have a desktop USB plug-in camera with microphone that I no longer use that I can give to you. Just plug it into your desktop, and you'll have speaker and video on your desktop computer.
Does he have a desktop?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you
Should
have a
make things easy.
you have a desktop computer, don't you, Dan?
Yes, yeah, I've got a PC, but it just has no camera, no microphone on it. And when I had the speakers on from the computer, I could hear a lot better. I can't hear real good with my cell phone speakers. So that would be great. Just getting the speaker would help out a lot.
Okay, I'll touch base with you. I'm probably heading through your way on Thursday to go up to Shaney Creek for Brent's service, so maybe I'll make some time and we can meet up on Thursday.
Okay, that'd be great if you we meet you some more directly on your route.
Great. And Dan Massoff, I'm assuming you want to do this again. By the way, this was all Dan Massoff's idea. Like most good ideas for the chapter, they're not mine, but somebody brings them to me, and I'm able to get them going. So thank you very much, Dan Massoff, for putting this together. So I'm assuming you want to do this again, correct?
Yeah, you know, I think we need to find a way to get more than 10 somehow, some way, not limit ourselves to that, but yeah, let's do it again for sure.
Well, we have 3 people watching live on the right now that aren't actually taking part in it, so I'm assuming that'll grow a little bit. And this will all be available on YouTube to watch later. So hopefully I can help promote it a little bit through Facebook and Twitter, and we can get more people involved. I know the other turf chats have had like a specific topic or a speaker. Maybe at some point we can look into doing something like that. Eric Grant, would you be willing to do this again?
Yeah, I would. I think it's pretty cool. I got some things I got to work out on my end, but is there any way that you could kind of send out email or something to us not so techie savvy guys so we know what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I guess I'm not sure exactly what you mean by the question, what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Well, obviously the speaker's plugged in to the laptop. It's a lot better than just listening to the laptop speakers themselves. And you know, for some reason my camera isn't working. So.
Eric, I think maybe you might be an internet connection issue with you there. I'm not sure what kind of internet hookup you have at your shop.
Yeah, I'm out here in BFE. We have satellite internet, so
Yeah,
But
so
yes.
that might be something that you might, I don't know if you have better internet at home or or not, but he might just be better off with doing video with or no video and just sound possibly.
Okay, but yes.
But we can talk after and maybe figure some stuff out for you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yep. Just sweet.
Yeah, I loved it. I guess, Eric, some suggestions I'd make, if you got an iPhone, just use that's all I'm using is my earbuds and my iPhone microphone. Just plugged into my laptop, and that makes it a lot easier. Then if everybody has on mute when you're not talking, that'll prevent all of the feedback, and you just do that on the top right corner. But no, I'd love to do this again, and yeah, it was great.
Thanks, Jeff. Jim Bluck.
I echo the sentiments. Adam, I want to thank you for kind of emceeing the whole thing and taking Dan's idea to fruition. I've been watching a lot of the John Kaminsky's turf chats, and I'm getting kind of addicted to it. I think small sessions like this, people can be open and honest, and I think truths come out. And it'll be interesting to see if anybody watches this on YouTube afterwards and then comments about some of these topics that nobody else expounded upon and or had anything to offer. So I think it's great.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. And I know that the turf chats that John Kaminsky accepts live tweets of people that aren't in the session. So that's also an option. People that are watching that may have a question about something that we're talking about, they could tweet me at MiGCSA Twitter handle with the turf chat hashtag is how they do a lot of their stuff as well. So maybe sometime in the future. Steve Hammond, do you have any feedback from the turf chat?
It's been great. I really like it. I could get addicted to this. It's great information and great to see the faces live. I'm wondering what camera you have, Adam and Jeff, because those are so crystal clear.
Mine's just integrated into my laptop.
Yeah, so is mine.
Okay, good. That's what I have too. Just those are really the extra clear ones. And great job organizing it. It's nice to send questions in advance and look forward to the next one.
Very good. If somebody has questions for the next one, feel free to email them to me. I'll add them to the bullet point list. And with that, I think we'll end episode 1 of the MiGCSA Turf Chat. If you do want to see some of the other ones that Jim Bluck was talking about, go to YouTube. I think type in Turf Chat, maybe hashtag Turf Chat. Certainly if you're on Twitter and you follow John Kaminsky, you'll see him tweeting when they have live ones. I watched a little bit of one on my phone the other day while I was making dinner to kind of get familiar with the format, and they got 20 plus episodes I think now of their turf chats from different speakers, different superintendents from all over the world. So some pretty nice free education and networking possibilities. So I guess with that we'll finish episode 1. Thank you guys all for coming.
One last quick thing, you can get those turf chats on I think it's turfdiseases.net.
Yeah, they and Pace Turf I think also has something to do with it.
Turf diseases, something like that. And one quick question, just to raise a hand: is anybody trying turf screen this year?
I can't raise my hand, but I am.
Okay.
No.
Maybe we should put that on the agenda for the next one. Jeff Sweet.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on the sidelines on that, but I'll be in contact with Eric to see how it works.
I see a lot of guys down south that are doing it down in the Florida area. I know of that have been using it and seeing some results. So Pine Tree National and TPC, a couple guys I went to college with.
Actually, I'm gonna use it on a bunker face, as a trial and see how that goes. So
I held on to it last year, Jeff. Had it all year, and I just didn't pull the trigger on it. But after seeing some of the comments on like TurfNet and some of the other results out there, I'm gonna pull the trigger on it this year.
I guess we don't need it as a topic. Maybe next time. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon, and good luck on getting the golf courses open.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
Good idea.
guys.
Adam, thanks, Dan.